We're back in the room. We're in eveonline once more, and I thought I'd just do a little kind of montage. Going to do a mission. Yeah, I know it's a mission, and I always kind of had this little thing in my head. So we need Vanguard because obviously you all played it, and I'm telling you this because you all played it. There's this wonderful bit with a crashed ship with a ship's core. Always like that. I kind of like the like the thought of integrating some of that into my eveonline play. I just imagine I have Marines on board that are like, oh god, he's doing another mission. So obviously they fling themselves from a high point. Anyway, so Vanguard's over. It's done. Now we wait to see what comes next. Playing a bit of Eve again. Must admit, it's nice to be back. Obviously, the first thing I did when I logged in was run 14 Tengus through a Guristas extravaganza. Overkill? Maybe a slightly overkill. It's kind of like bringing thermonuclear weapons to a duel, but there we go. Enjoyed it, had a bit of fun. I've got to get a bit better, I think, at understanding how on earth some of the things that work at the moment, because there's the Christmas event. So the next video is actually going to be about this winter, what's it called? Winter festival, something. I'm going to actually enjoy that because I've watched a few videos on how it works. It looks really interesting. So I'm going to enjoy that. And get this, are you ready for this? I'm going to play it solo. That's right, no alts, no army of Tengus hovering around me like angry drones. We're going to run this one completely on my own with a trillion ISK of assets behind me. But let's not worry about that. So I think I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's nice. One of the things I enjoy about these kind of games is chilling. Do you know what I mean by that? So you sort of sit down, you've had, your family, your friends, your partner, whatever, wibbling on at you for like, hours about putting that bloody shelf up or something or another. So the thought of then just getting into Eve and just, mining, just ratting, just shooting things. These are good things. Even doing PI, dare I say, with the new PI planetary templates. That's exciting. Never liked PI myself. Always found it a little bit pain in the bum, to be honest with you. But maybe it's better now. I should probably give it a go. I've got so many accounts that literally you could probably get some benefit out of doing it across so many accounts. But I don't know, after a while, the money is just a way of keeping score. And yes, that's probably the most arrogant thing I've said, probably so far in my videos. But yeah, you have to sort of do things that make you enjoy the game, because I think right now, there's an interesting kind of way forward for CCP here. There's lots of things happening, some of it in NDA, some of it out. Not saying I'm part of it, but I know that they're doing a lot of things that we as in like anyone couldn't really talk about. Eve Vanguard was one of the more public things they're doing. They have the new Eve Frontiers game. Again, not going to say too much about that because my goodness. But it's all quite interesting. And again, if I was going to level a slight criticism here, is they're not particularly good at announcing things, are they? I think when you look at things like Star Citizen and even big studios like Bethesda and so on, they're quite polished at that communication piece. I don't think CCP have quite got there yet. I'm not saying they're bad, but I just think there's it's not clear. Like with Vanguard, what are they trying to do with it? And I think they released a few videos saying, boots on the ground, the FPS in the Eve universe. This is all kind of clear, I guess. So I'm not going to say that they're not doing a bad job there. But my feeling is there's probably there's a bit of ambiguity over where are they going with this game, or what are they trying to kind of provide to us as their consumers. And I think that's the sort of problem, really, isn't it? Eve is such a sort of monolith of a game. It's wonderful. There's so much depth. There's so much culture, character, and humour that you can't really easily change a lot in Eve without really changing the game fundamentally. So they've always nudged it here and nudged it there. I know people are going to post in the comments angrily that they don't nudge, they massively change. I don't think they do. When you compare it to some of the things we've seen in other games, they have kept this game relatively as stable and static as they could. They didn't introduce, walking in stations, think about how that could have fundamentally changed the game. Fundamentally. It didn't though, and it's gone now. The same with Eve Vanguard, they're not necessarily trying to just, like an Elite, all of a sudden you can get out your ship and go run contracts. So it's trying to be a bit like Star Citizen, I guess. You have a person and they fly a ship. And that's the difference. In Eve, you are the ship. You don't get out of it. And I think that's kind of interesting to me. And I think I quite like that. I think actually it's probably better to keep that and make the Vanguard piece your your military, your soldiers. But we'll see. The best part, I think, of where they're going with this is the gun game is solid. If you didn't play Vanguard, I'm going to point and shake my head at you for not trying it. The gun game was good. I mean, that's the core fundamentals of what you would expect an FPS to have, is a good, solid gun game. Vanguard was excellent. It really was. And that's why I'm quite happy to see maybe where they go with this. Now, you know, what could be the route of travel here? It could be instances, it could be, shipboarding. I mean, ultimately, I want it to be shipboarding, but I think there's so much they could do with it now, and I am excited to see where maybe they go with it. But I think so far, quite impressed. You know, I mean, Dust I thought was good. I mean, it was on the wrong platform, but it was still a fun game. But it was a very small game compared to what the scope of Vanguard could be, which is missions, NPCs, PvE, PvP, and so on. I really like that. Now, it does need vehicles, it does need more, but if it's literally fighting from, you know, a boarding action onto a ship, I mean, I'm all in. Like, literally, there's no game out there except one that's names completely escapes me, but there's not really many, or even there never has been many games that really get into shipboarding. Shipboarding is a challenging thing to do because you've got two entities as in the spaceships that are kind of blowing the hell out of each other. You've then got the physics of the ship that you board and how you then run a gun game in that. So the server load on just trying to get all of that to work is incredible. And then think about how they might interact. How would you have a shot fired from one ship into the side of another that then impacts the FPS players inside that ship? Maybe you don't. Maybe you keep it nice and simple to begin with. But either way, this is all kind of really exciting stuff, and I'm all, you know, my kind of background is very much about making things sort of sell. And I'm a big believer in, you know, you sell the sizzle. You don't say, do you want a sausage? You kind of sell the benefit of a sausage. And again, that sounds rude and wrong, but you get what I'm going with it, is that, you know, it's the taste, not the object necessarily. And I think that's true of everything, is you don't buy, you don't go and buy something because of what it is, you buy it because of the need of it or the desire of it. And I think with Vanguard and Eve and so on, they've not quite understood that. They're trying to make very strong platforms and very strong products, which is good. That's obviously what you would expect a developer to do. What they're maybe not addressing is what is the desire for that product. And I think when it comes to, you know, large space opera games, Eve has it. They've nailed it. They've got that. I don't think there's really many games out there you could say come close to Eve. A few spring to mind, like Stellaris, but again, that's a very different style of game. You have things like Frontier Foundations, is it? X4, X3. They're pretty good, but they're single player. So it's got a dominance in this market, and that's why it's still around. So if you're going to go and then diversify your product range, you might as well try and do the same thing again, which is to differentiate and dominate. And I think one of the big areas that no game company has got quite right yet, but Star Citizen is close from what I've seen, is shipboarding. I think that could be quite epic. Now, the issue with shipboarding in Star Citizen is it's a bit clunky and the ships aren't very big. And that's the issue. So if you've ever played Space Hulk Deathwing, I think it's called, that's a really good example of what this should be like, is cathedral cavernous ships, you know, even some of them potentially held together with rock, like they repurposed just rock, because why would you refine that rock into steel if the rock is strong enough and it works? It makes sense, doesn't it? So I think if they did something like that, I could see, you know, that would be quite interesting. And I think that's the bit that I really hope they do, like boarding a Titan. Imagine the kind of mechanics of that, cavernous hangar bays, ship bays, you know, things going on that require you to fight across multiple levels, verticality, so you're looking up as down as well as left and right. This is all really exciting stuff, and I just think it could be epic. But let's see. I mean, if my dream gets realised, then I'll be a very happy man. But something in me says that the challenge is it's always going to be difficult to fund and develop games like this, because it's just a huge amount of risk. It's a gamble. And I think now they have a new parent company, and again, I understand that only too well in my corporate life that I do not speak of, just due to injunctions, etc. I can speak about the fact that I've worked in companies that have been bought by parent companies. So the company itself, you know, billion-dollar organizations have been bought by multi-billion-dollar organizations. And you always get that email which comes through which says, Don't worry, nothing's going to change. Everything always changes, and it's always slow and gradual and deliberate and takes time. But I think honestly, you know, we can only expect that that's happening here with CCP right now. I mean, I don't know really where they're going with it, and so far it does seem as if there's a bit of pressure from things like, you know, cryptocurrency investments. I know they took money from that to do a game. Not going to talk about it because I don't even want to get down that route. But you know, what do they do with Eve? Well, you know, to them, Eve is a cash cow. So again, portfolio management wise, I'm not going to go into this. Maybe we talk about it in the next video. If you're interested in this, post in the comments. But if you look at sort of 4 areas, you have a rising star, which is high growth, high profit. You have a dog, which is low growth, low profit. And then you have things like the problem child, which is, I think, high growth but low revenue, low money. And the other one is the cash cow, which is low growth but high money. And Eve is definitely in that cash cow area. This is literally Boston Box analysis. But we'll talk about it next time. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.